Well, look, here's the interesting thing. I have faith and energy on the bottom. If you think of it as four boxes, I have love and impact up top, and I have faith and energy at the bottom. There's a reason, because faith and energy are the foundation for you becoming a bigger impact in the world, for you becoming a better husband, a better spouse, a better friend, a better boss, whatever it is. I mean, the foundation is how you show up and why you show up. That's what you can control.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Intentional Leadership Podcast, where driven entrepreneurs are making an impact on the world. And so today, with that in mind, we have Scott Danner, a father, a husband, and a CEO. And guess what? He loves scaling, but he really wants to help you identify what it is, how you can optimize your life and make a greater impact. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
So what got you started? Why did you want to become an entrepreneur?
I don't even think I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I think I was born an entrepreneur. Whether it was trading baseball cards or cutting lawns or, building stuff, building teams, building whatever it was, I was always into it as a kid. And honestly, I was chasing safety when I first got out of school. I was going to go to law school. I was going to, I didn't know why. I went and got a job with the Attorney General's office here in the state of Virginia and had a pretty cool job. And I needed that steady paycheck because I just didn't come from a ton of security, financial security. So for me, it was, how can I lay the foundation? And then I was just going to take it one step at a time. And the AG didn't win the governor's race, and I didn't have a job. And I called I come from a big family. My mom is one of 7. And I called one of my aunts who I'm super close with. I'm super close with all of them, but I called one that I'm super close with. And I was honestly just complaining. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have not figured it out. I was 21, 22 years old and I thought I had my path kind of figured out. And then it was all, just not right. And she said, you should try this. You should go into finance. You'd be great at this, helping people, leading people. And I remember saying, I don't even know how to start. And so she goes, let me get you an intro. So she got me an introduction and I put in an application and I was hired. Like 3 weeks later, I started get all my licenses from scratch, had zero experience in the industry, had zero experience with money. And I really learned the trade, like a tradesperson who becomes a welder or someone who's an HVAC tech. Like I just learned the technical part of the trade. And for once in my life, I said, with that entrepreneur brain, you got to shut yourself up. I said, hey, Scott, let's just listen to the recipe and follow it until you have a foundation. Then you can break it and build it the way you want. And I spent like 2 years just doing everything I was told to do, which was very difficult for me. But I followed the recipe and I built the foundation of a business. And it was really in the first years, I call it like a lifestyle practice. I was home every late afternoon, coaching soccer with my boys, doing all the things I wanted to accomplish, but also having a very good work-life balance. And I woke up in 2016 and I was like, I can do more. I can do better. And I started Freedom Street Partners, which is was my own company. It was an enterprise. I saw the challenge in this industry that I was in, where there were more 80-year-olds than 30-year-olds in financial advising. Like if you think about your financial advisor, your typical financial advisor, they're older, and almost everybody sees them as like these very mature and wise individuals, and they've been doing it a long time. And I remember thinking, there's got to be a plan. What's the plan? 73% had no step down plan, no catastrophic risk, no succession. So to make a long story short, I went in and started a company and built the framework in and around that and to solve a problem. And that's how we built that company. And then we ended up selling that company in 2023 because we were scaling and building so fast that we needed support and strategic partnership. So I sold it to a company that had never done mergers and acquisitions, and I seeded their M&A division of their company. They were about 10 times our size. And so now I've built a model for them that we're now implementing across the nation and changing many lives. And so my ideas and that entrepreneur bug is something that just it's the create, build, serve, impact kind of mentality, and it all ties to life. It's the things that I like to do.
Yeah, no, I love that, and we're all here to make an impact and to find that passion. So, are you when you go out and doing the M&A, are you rolling them up all under one brand? Are you bringing multiple people together? What's that looking like?
Yeah. So the first thing that we do is we have to understand where they're at. What I've learned about if I have a secret sauce in M&A, first of all, this has been done in every industry.
Hmm.
Roll ups happen in every industry. People go out and buy HVAC companies. My gastro doctor was like, "Yeah, I got bought out 2 years ago," and he was telling me all about it. And a PE group came in and bought them out and accumulated all these. It's not like it's new,
Right.
and it happens especially with this silver tsunami, as they call it, where the baby boomers are retiring and all these businesses are set to not have somebody to take them over. So buying businesses is a really good opportunity, and finance is no different. So to answer your question, we don't just like roll them into one thing. We really identify what are they trying to accomplish. Are they selling and exiting? Are they selling and staying? Are they trying to bridge the gap between maybe it's a father and son, or mother and daughter, and the son or daughter can't afford the practice. They have no assets. Mom or dad doesn't want to sell it to them. So we're really solving this epidemic, this problem in this industry, and we're meeting them where they're at. And sometimes that means they have a 30, 40-year brand in the community. We're not killing that
Hmm.
brand. We're just unifying it under the holding company, essentially. So the company is Steward Partners. So it would be Freedom Street. Instead of Freedom Street Partners, I became Freedom Street at Steward Partners.
Got it.
So my brand stayed like 90% the same. We refreshed and revitalized the website. We keep doing all the same things we were doing in the community, where we were Small Business of the Year, 3 years ago. Like, we didn't lose any of that, but we were able to kind of build off of it with strategic partnership.
I love it. I mean, because there's so many issues right now with what you said. Somebody doesn't have a plan. They don't know where they're going. Their kids can't afford it, or they don't even want to be in the industry. Maybe they don't want to be in finance. They want to be a school teacher. And so what do you do with that? So I think that's a critical piece. And how do you build in the impact then? When you're going in and talking to them, when does that conversation start?
Yeah, you're familiar with my life model, so I'll just kind of talk
Yeah.
through it briefly. My life model is the four parts of life that I've kind of built um, my entire life around. I've built, I believe it's broken up into four parts: love, the who's in our life that matter most; impact, what we do beyond our day job; faith, something bigger than ourselves. For me, it's God; and then energy, how you show up to the world. So it's really who, what, why, and how. You asked about impact. In I was probably doing the M&A thing 2 years. It's like 2018. I joined Genius Network, which is where we met
Hmm.
each other, and I start to realize that there's a really big problem, and that is that most business owners, their entire impact is directly correlated to their business, and that's a problem. That's a major problem. And it's what drove me to write my book. It's what drove me to help more people, because the first thing you have to solve for is you have to solve, what are you going to do when you're no longer doing this? And most people have never thought about it. They literally have their business is how they sponsored their daughter's softball team. Their business is how they sponsored their church's events. Like, everything they do is connected to their business. So when you sell that business, they feel like they've lost a part of themselves. And we started this conversation pre-show talking about dropping one of my sons off and leaving him up in at an academy for soccer, and the other one at college. Being an empty nester is almost the same kind of feeling that you have when you sell your business. There's this exhilaration and excitement for the next chapter for them. But and for this person selling, there's excitement about the amount of money you're probably earning from something you built, and it's a monetization, and you feel like you've accomplished something. Could be the most successful day of your life, but there's an emptiness that goes with it. And that emptiness is you're tied to the community. So one of the things that we try to do is we try to establish what are some of these things that they're doing. How can we help them keep that impact? That nobody cares what your business name was on the softball team. Nobody cares that your church was sponsored by Freedom Street instead of Scott Danner. Let's just adjust some things. What are the things you really want to keep impacting? And then you see if they really care about impacting it, because then it comes down to, yeah, but I can't write that off anymore. So do I
Mm-hmm.
still want to do it? And so then we're like, well, maybe it's not the impact. Maybe it's just the money you have a problem with. So we have these conversations and we help people identify that impact. But what are they trying to accomplish? What do they really want to be when they grow up? And it doesn't matter how old we get, we still have dreams that we haven't accomplished yet.
Yeah, they're stuck in this identity gap. They're like you say, they're known in the community, own the business. That's who they are, and it might be Scott at Freedom, but it's still still Freedom, right?
Yeah,
And
it's still the business. It's still
yeah,
Scott Danner. Like
right,
you're still who you are. You don't lose. You're still dad to your son when you drop him off at college.
right.
He doesn't need you as much, and that's a little painful. But it's that's your problem, not his.
Mm-hmm. So is there a time where you have to go, okay, they're not ready to decide what impact they want to make, and you have to go to some of the other things, the love, the faith component?
Yeah, I'll give you a story. I was riding, I was having a conversation with close to an 80-year-old who's still in the business and 77 at the time, I think. And
Wow.
we're riding. He hopped in my car to the airport. We were at a conference together at this top producers conference, and he hopped in and he starts talking about retirement. And I said, well, I got a question for you. What does your wife want you to do? What do your kids want you to do? I mean, I know that I would be happy to tell my parents what I feel is important to them at 77 years old. I know that I have a limited time with them on this earth. I'd like to make sure that I can spend as much time as possible, that they're making an impact. And so you're exactly right. Sometimes that question, so I asked that question and it leads to other things. He said he had never thought about it.
Yeah,
And I said, you love what you do, huh? And he goes, I love what I do. And I said, well, you can't love what you do so much that you're not thinking about who you do it for.
that's
See, the
good.
reason, if I asked you why you do what you do, you'd say you do it for your family. But what does your family want? Have you thought about that? So you went to love, you go to the who's in his life that matter most, and all of a sudden he starts to see the impact. That individual sold his business about a year and a half later and came to me as a resource because we connected on a level that was personal, that was relational. It's to me, it's all about building the relationship. I think too often in M&A and in business, everything's transactional. And I don't do anything transactional. I don't love that transaction. It's like it's dirty, it feels uncomfortable, it's cold, it's empty. But relationships, man, if we build something special, it's a long-term fit. It's a connection you can go back to. It's something you're proud of.
Right.
It's a team that you built that you could always call if you needed something. Like I think that's the way that you do it. And then if you have to, Graham, you go back into some of the other areas. Like, are you as healthy as you want to be? How's your energy? I mean, let's face it, not everybody's showing up to the world the way that they'd like to. They're not as healthy as they want to be. They're not getting enough exercise. Why? Why are you not doing? You're at a point where you can sell your business. You're as successful as you ever dreamed of. Why not take some time for yourself to be able to actually take care of yourself? So those are things, and obviously, I don't get into their faith, but I definitely talk about my own, and
Mm-hmm.
I talk about surrendering. For me, I sold at 45 years old. There was the key word to that was surrender. It was, I felt like I'm here to do something bigger and to help more people. And that doesn't happen if I stay in the same space, in the same comfort zone, doing the same thing for the rest of my life. So it was about surrendering and really following a larger path.
Yeah, and that's a lot like what ours is: faith, family, and impact. So we just need to come up with a cooler acronym so we can be like yours. But if when we're working with people, they faith. We want to talk about that. We want them to know there's a higher power, and ours is the same. We have God, and we need to surrender daily. And then it's family. What does that family dynamic look like? yours is different than mine. And part of it's stages and part of it's just the activities of your boys versus our kids.
Right.
And that's okay. And then finally the impact on that. And so I think it's perfectly aligned with that. And so how do you navigate, somebody like that is essentially historically going to die with their boots on. And how do you navigate that conversation with a spouse? Do you incorporate them? Do you bring them into the meetings, or do you let them do that all on their own?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been doing a little bit more consulting and coaching in this
Mm-hmm.
space and helping people through this. And I just recently built out a plan of execution. I've been doing it kind of as it happens and as we need. But I was building out the plan, and part of the plan includes a spousal, a dinner or a spousal connection because I really believe that we don't often check in with the people that we love the most on what's important to them. And, being a financial advisor for 20 something years, I sat across from a lot of people who thought they had it figured out, and they go to retire and the husband gets up and goes to the bathroom sometime in the middle of the appointment. And the wife looks at me and says, please get this guy back to work. He's got to do something. I am making him breakfast, and then I finish breakfast. I make him lunch, and then I finish lunch, and I make him dinner. I did not sign up for this. And, and this is a lot of, now I've been doing it 20 something years. You can understand a lot of the roles when over the first decade were very traditional, and they're a little less traditional today. But the point is, it's understanding what the other person wants out
Mm-hmm.
of this. What are some of the things they want to do? What are the things they'd like to see you do? These are questions that you can only get when an outside person's asking. And so when we consult, one of the things we're going to do is evaluate with you and your business. What are you trying to accomplish? We're going to dissect life for you: love, impact, faith, and energy. We're going to identify where the gaps are, where the misalignment is. And then we're going to go into the business. Now, what do you want out of the business? Because there's two parts of the business. It's the family and the personal side, and it's the professional side. Usually a business is made up of people. So how do you take care of those people? How do you make sure everybody's, going to come along in the right way, that they're protected, that you have all these responsibilities. But if we can organize it in the right way, you can really do all the things that matter, faith, family, impact, or life in general. You have it all
Mm-hmm.
together.
Right. No, I think that that's important. And, like I've worked with some couples, we'll bring them in and we'll work together and they'll go, you didn't ask me or tell me you wanted to retire. I have a life. I want to do these things. I still want to work even in some of the cases. And so it's important that that conversation starts early and often, because it can, cause some conflict a little bit down the road. So that's good that you're talking about it. So the life, the impact, the faith, energy. Tell me a little bit more about that. What's that look like?
Well, look, here's the interesting thing. I have faith and energy on the bottom. If you think of it as four boxes, I have
Oh.
love and impact up top, and I have faith and energy at the bottom. There's a reason, because faith and energy are the foundation for you becoming a bigger impact in the world, for you becoming a better husband, a better spouse, a better friend, a better boss, whatever it is. I mean, the foundation is how you show up and why you show up. That's what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
The impact is where that energy goes. The impact is why you're doing it, right? But if you can build a strong foundation, then you're good. And so simply, that's a healthy mind, a healthy body, healthy spirit. To me, that's a really important part. I think a lot of times in business, we go to lots of conferences, we speak at lots of places where we're friends with lots of people who probably wish they would prioritize their health a little bit more. But if you prioritize your health, you live longer for the people you love. You're a bigger impact. You're focusing. You also realize that you're kind of setting aside the mission. If the business becomes so big that it's your ego wrapped up in this, this bacon wrapper that you can't ever get around, it's just everything to you. It means that you're not focusing on anything that matters.
Right.
And to me, the energy component, where these things really came from, Graham, is that these are all areas that when I would set my goals in the beginning of the year 20 years ago, I didn't even call it, I didn't call it this cool LIFE. I basically had, work wealth and family, and I had all the things. So I sharpened it up to make it the high performance life. So it was something that was fun and easy to follow. But I would take these four boxes and I would just brain dump all the things that were on my mind in those areas. So if I were sitting here working with you and I said, let's talk about energy, what are the things in your life from a healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit that you want more of? What are the things you want to quit doing? What are the things that are holding you back from being the full version of yourself? Who's keeping you from the people you love? How is it keeping you from the people you love? How good do you feel when you do these things versus when you don't do these things? And you would brain dump and you kind of look at that box when you're done. And I would say, okay, now circle or prioritize a couple of those things that stand out the most to you. What are the things that are the biggest 10xers? What's going to change other areas? What's going to be a 10 times multiplier? And I do that in every category. And so if you do that in every category, you're documenting the who's in your life that matter most, that are going to actually, that you love showing up for, you love doing stuff with, that you want more of. You know how it is. We go to a genius meeting. We sit. You and I had breakfast one morning with Whitney, former Miss Olympia. We had. I'm trying to think who else was at that table. I mean, it was such a
Right.
great table. And the garage door guy, or not the garage door, what
Tony
the
Mello.
yeah, yeah, Mello. Like what a business mind. What an
Right.
amazing human, right? So we're having this phenomenal lunch, breakfast. This is the first start of our day. Every one of us got up from that table alive. We felt better about ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
were like, man, I want to learn more about him.
Right.
And those are the people that give you life. Those are the people that the more you're around people like that, the better your life is. The longer you live, the more you want to show up, and the less you care about what your paycheck is or how much your business earns. That's a good part of it, but it's only part of it. So, I think that's a long answer for energy, but the reality is I have a lot of it, so I can give you as much as you need.
I think the two of us could go for days on energy. That's probably not lacking with either one of us. So,
No.
uh, what about a challenge that are you finding something? Let's stay on energy for just for the lack of. But is there a challenge that you're finding with these people that you're coaching and working with? That there's a constant or a continuous problem specifically related to energy that you're finding from others?
I think people settle a lot of
Mm,
times in life, and you settle for the lowest common denominator. So I see a lot of people kind of settle for, I they think back, okay, let's say they're 55 years old, 60 years old. They look back at like 50 and they say, well, when I was 50 to 55, I was this weight and I was doing these things. And I used to work out a couple times a week and I felt really good. I would just challenge them to find, to identify what they actually want and then build towards that. Create the vision of what you want out of that and then build towards it. So a challenge I see a lot is people selling themselves short.
hmm.
They're picking really small goals in, like, you go to impact and you go to the work, the wealth, their goals are astronomical. Then you go to faith, you go to energy, and you go to love, and they're this big. They're a quarter of an inch big. And you're like, why are we thinking it's so small here? What do you mean? I just would love to go on a trip with my whole family to Disney World. Well, your company did $10 million last year. Do you think you could just buy the trip for your family? What's holding you back? Why are you waiting? Like, these are the things that I'm blown away. So with energy, it's usually just selling yourself too short. Taking time, it takes time to give it to that energy. It takes time to go for those walks, to have 10,000 steps. It takes time for the personal trainer. Like, part of the exercises are knowing yourself, self-awareness. So, I found out pretty early I hated working out alone.
Ah,
And when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I was playing a lot of soccer, and I was kind of a weekend warrior, and I'd show up and I'd try to play at the highest level. And I remember sprinting, and I was playing this kid who was like a Division I college sprinter at like Rutgers or Stanford or something. And I'm sprinting, and I'm trying to like beat this guy with the ball, and he's just catching me. And then when I actually get to the ball and I have the chance to make a move, like, my legs are dead. And I remember thinking to myself, this has never happened, and your body's aging and you're not taking care of it. So I went and hired a personal trainer and I started working out 3 times a week and I had a blast. I showed up because I had someone else to be accountable to. I found out that I really loved going because I didn't love getting up in the morning, but I loved going and having something that I got done right away. And I felt more accomplished. Like I would go to bed earlier because now I felt like I did something for myself. There were so many triggers that happened, and this was my own self realization. I'd always been in shape, but I went from playing 3 times a week, where you're in much better shape, to playing like once a week. As you get busier and your kids are born, and life changes. So I guess what I'm getting at is you have to kind of be self aware as you look at this area of life. Look at the ways that make you more successful. Maybe you don't have a lot of in between time to spend it with the people you love. Maybe your family's all over the place, but there's probably one week a year where you can get everybody together. So go all in. What does it take to go all in on that week? Just start to be self-aware enough to know how you can be your best, even if it's in limited times.
I love that. And one of the things you mentioned, we encourage every one of our, and we do it ourselves, but we encourage every one of the people that we work with to set one week aside and pick a vacation. Sometimes, some of the people have allowed the vacation to be picked by a child or a spouse or whoever, but they pick a week and they plan it, they pay for it. It's all done and scheduled. And so if everybody has a busy life, but all they have to do is show up. They don't have to worry about the finances because they're in their younger careers. There are kids. They're in their 20s or 30s. They can't afford it. Taking a week off is hard, whatever it might be. But creating those memories and just making it a smooth and easy situation for everybody. And they'll never remember the money later on in life. So
Yeah, Graham, I talk about this often. I've had the honor of doing 4 eulogies, and I did all four of my grandparents. And I did my grandmother was the first to go on my mom's side, and I read this letter that my mom had written to her. She's one of 7 siblings, and they all couldn't do it, so they asked me to do it as the oldest grandson. And so, I was able to stand up, and nothing in that letter talked about my grandmother's career, which she didn't have much of one, but she was a mom of 7. She was an amazing grandmother. She was an amazing woman. You talk about the people you loved. Who did they love? What impact did they make? How strong was their faith? How did they lead other people? How did they make you feel? When I think of my grandmother, I think of the spaghetti and the meatballs that she made. My mouth waters every time I think of her. When I did these eulogies, the point that I'm getting at is, nobody cares that you ran the largest HVAC company in Southern Florida. Like, it doesn't matter. What they care about is how one Christmas you dropped everything to go fix someone's heat because they needed it and their family needed it. And you're the kind of person that would make a difference. But the story didn't have to do with your career. The story had to do with you as a human. And
right.
I think sometimes we get disconnected between the human side of business, and the more we lean into relationships and business, in relationships, in the human side of everything we do, including business, you find that that's what people remember you for.
Mm-hmm.
So, to that point, I always think back on that one of my favorite people to listen to is a guy named Father Mike Schmitz out of Minnesota, and he's I love Father Mike,
Yeah.
and he talks about eulogy virtues. And if you live your life with eulogy virtues, these are the things that people will remember you by. This is living a legacy, not leaving one. It's really important to live it, not leave it. If you're living it, you'll have one heck of a legacy.
Yeah, I love it. Live it, don't leave it.
Huge.
That's enough right there. And so with the love, let's go over to love. It's family, it's friends, it's community. What does the L in that love mean for you, or
So
what's your model?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to start with is I write down people's names that give me energy every year. If I do podcasts just like you, and if I meet someone and I'm like, man, I really want more of that person in my life. They just made me feel great. We had a great connection. I might write their name down. I might have had one interaction with them. Might have had gone to a conference. There have been years where I wrote Genius Network in, and I just wanted to dive deeper into our group because I need more energy and more of that network to surround you as you're kind of going through tough things in life. And we tend to be kind of aliens. I mean, let's be honest. There's not everybody is a driver that kind of goes 100 miles an hour and is always building something. That entrepreneur tends to find, just sitting around on a Sunday very difficult. And so, I think the first thing I do is I think of the people that light me up. The easy ones are your family, and I always write down the names of the people in my family, and I write down some of the things I want to accomplish with them. I
Mm.
take my oldest son out to the Cowboys games every year. We've been going. We skipped last year when Dak got hurt. We decided not to go, but we go to Dallas every year. We go watch games because we like the Cowboys, and that's something him and I have that we have a really good time doing. My youngest son, I took him to see Andrea Bocelli. We sat right on the side of the stage. We had this amazing experience. I try to find things that each individual that they love, not just me, because I love things they love. But so
Hmm.
often we try to get people to do things we love instead of the other way around. And so the who's in our life, my mom cooks every Sunday. And, I said, hey, I want to go over a little early and kind of be in the kitchen with her. And it doesn't last long. She's a whirlwind in there, but she's amazing. And, I write down in that area. And the reason I say write down is because just thinking about it isn't doing it. When you write it down, you can kind of go back and just inventory. And so when I think of the who's in my life, I think of the people that light me up. Who do I live for? Who do I work for? And if you just take each box and you ask the other boxes questions, so I'll give you an example. If I say the love box, and I'm talking about my the people I love the most, the who's, I would say, what do I want to do with them? What kind of impact do I want to make in their life? Why am I showing up for them? How am I showing my faith in their life? Am I leading my family in the right direction? Energy. How am I showing up for them? Am I showing up in the way that I'm stressed and out of control and too passionate about stuff, or am I relaxed and calm? Am I present? You know, it doesn't take long before you start to be self-aware of the things that you could do better, and you work on it. And I'm a work in progress, just like all of us. So I use that as an area to identify new relationships I want to build, old relationships I want to retain, and the last one is the not so fun part, and that is, who do I want less of in my life? And I keep a list. And I don't keep a list like of all the fallen relationships, but unfortunately, as we grow, sometimes we outgrow some of the people in our lives that were really important to us at different times. And I don't try to alienate or separate, but I'm aware that maybe when I talk to them, I don't feel so good anymore. Maybe they constantly make me feel like I'm not like them, or maybe they make me feel awful about my success, or they shame me or something. These are things that have happened, and as you grow in business, some of that stuff becomes very disheartening. And I take an inventory so that I remember, hey, we're not going to that dinner with that couple. I'm tired of them constantly being like, must be nice to go on vacation. That, like, I don't want to hear that. I don't care. I like your kids, but I don't need to like you. Like
Right.
so I try to find, where can we be kind, where can we build relationships, where can we do those things that matter most, and who are those people that light us up, not the people that drain us. But if you're not keeping track of the people that are draining you, a lot of times you end up in situations that drain you, and now you're not showing up to people you love the right way.
Yeah, and it's hard. When it's family that drains you, separating that from putting the boundaries around it so that it makes sure that you're still seeing the family, you're around the family, but you're limiting the exposure to the negative draining pieces of the family, or putting it in changing pace or place. If sometimes changing the place will help with that as well.
That's a great point. Yeah, the timing, how you can control those, and I like the word boundaries. I think the boundaries are crucial. I've got some friends that have some challenging parents, and they're not always they kind of bring them down and aren't always cheerleaders, and it's almost like the child is raising the parent. And the advice is always to set the boundaries. Tell them what you're willing to do. you have to be able to stand up in front of that church and talk about the good things that happen to them when they're gone, and you want that peace. But what do you need to serve them? Because sometimes you go all the way overboard, and they're not doing anything but tearing you down, and that's a really tough place to be. And I feel for people like that. I'm super blessed that my parents and my family in general give me life, and I'm grateful for that. So my goal is always to take those friends that have those scenarios, bring them into my family, bring them into
Mm.
our environment, surround ourselves with that love so that we can help show them, so when they build their families, that it's exponential.
So if your mom doesn't cook on Sunday, do you take over?
No, I will cook, but my mom cooks every Sunday. Every Sunday night we have Sunday dinner. Saturday she sends us the menu. She sends a text to the family. I have two siblings, my brother and my sister. They both have children. Their children show up. A couple are at college, so they don't come when they're out of town. But when they're in town, everybody comes. We do it every Sunday night. So my little brother now has two kids under the age of 2, and the almost 2-year old last night after we finished dinner, we're watching gymnastics was on the TV, and she decided she was going to do a gymnastics routine. She's not even 2. She thinks she's flipping, and then she's landing it and like holding her arms out, and we're all like hysterically laughing. And that's awesome. I mean,
It
that's
is.
good. That's good. That's good mojo, and I'm grateful. My mom puts a ton of energy and effort. My dad cooks some as well, and so the two of them kind of just entertain us every Sunday night. And we when we're in town, we go every week. So it's a nice way to sit around the table, have conversations, sometimes get in some arguments. It goes all the different directions. Italian families are like that, though. We get it all out at the table.
Well, and that's what I admire about the Italians and the Irish, both of you in particular, where you can get it out on the table, let it go, and then it's over. It's just you get fiery and then you stop and you move on. Let's go have a pint together and we'll talk about whatever, the soccer game.
A hundred
Uh,
percent. I've always had to. It's really true because my mom's side's Italian, my dad's side is not, and so and I always have erred on the side of my mom. Like I'm the passionate, more Italian. I'm the only bald one. All the Italians are bald, but my dad's side, they all have full heads of hair. They'll remind you at the dinner table as well. Um, so you're right, though. It is that passion and that excitement and kind of just getting it out. And you make mistakes. Like, what a great place to make mistakes. Sometimes you say dumb stuff that you wouldn't say out in public, but your family calls you out on it. You're like, you know what? That is dumb. I need to say that better.
right.
And it's not just me, it's other people at the table. We help check each other, so we're better for the world. That's what family does.
No, I love that. The family sharpening each other out, before you go out in the world and cut somebody down the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good practice. It's
Yeah.
it's practicing love, practicing eating around a table with the family. We invite other people in. It's a good time.
So how often do you invite others in, and how big is this group that you end up having?
So we probably have a table. I had to buy my mom a new table, so that we could have everybody sit down at some point in time, and every once in a while we have to have some side tables. But it's normally 10 to 12, because the grandkids are now getting older, and so my son is every Sunday now. My son has a he's out of college. He's getting ready to back to college, but he has like a 7 o'clock meeting for this TikTok business that he does. And so like he goes upstairs and does the meeting. And so he's not at the table, and it's coming and going. So it's usually 10 to 12 on a regular basis. And then, as people come in, like on my birthday, one of my good friends is a level 2 Psalm. And,
Mm.
I always invite Josh over. He brings the wine. My mom used to cook for him and my buddies in the neighborhood. And so he loves going in the kitchen, just seeing what my mom's cooking, opening a bottle of wine, telling everybody about it, makes the experience better. We do like different things. And so we'll invite different friends for different times.
Oh, that's great. What other things do you as a family, your wife, your kids, do to stay balanced and to just kind of keep the main thing the main thing?
You know, it's funny. I think we're a super tough spot because of our boys. My wife and I just hit this kind of empty nest spot, and one son's living away and the other one's at college. So they're both kind of away more often than they're not. And like the month of July is like the only month we're all in the house together.
Hmm.
So I like to go and do something during that time. And they're traveling, playing so much soccer, they're always on the road. They don't want to do anything. So my wife kind of helps us stay grounded. We do a lot of stuff around the house and kind of dinners. Probably one of the biggest things is we have another couple and their kids who have grown up with our kids. And pretty much every Friday night, we almost do what my parents do on Sunday nights. And we just have, we either go over there or they come over there. We go to dinner. We make special dinners. We do wine dinners. We incorporate the kids in whatever we're doing, and you know, we've kind of watched everybody grow up. We have conversations about, you know, the dating for the younger ones as they're starting. I mean, we have fun, and so I think those are some of the ways that we center. And then my wife and I have a thing I've talked about before. You've probably heard it, and it's called our ROM. And I believe that couples need to have a separation from the family to recenter. And it started when my youngest was like just a baby, and we were having those first two, and now you're kind of figuring it out. And we were not finding good common ground. And we went out of town, and she looked at me and she said, "This is our ROM weekend." And I said, "I don't know what that means, but it sounds amazing." And and she goes, "It's rekindle our marriage. It's just we'll reconnect." And I said, "I love it." And so I, like the entrepreneur I am, I took it and built it into a thing. And so we had a minimum of two a year. It was either a week long or a weekend at the least. Sometimes we would have the need for a ROM getaway for a day where we hit a local winery or something. We spend the night and we come back the next day. But it was always a way for us to recharge and reconnect, because we have to remember that we don't just love each other, we like each other. And sometimes that's difficult when your life is fast with two boys playing, you know, competitive sports. And we got to the point where we're like high-fiving, and I'm going to this city and she's going to that state. And you know, it's difficult. So I think that's how we reground too, because the two of us connecting again allows our family to be stronger.
Yeah, I like that. We have another friend, probably a mutual friend, that she has a honeymoon once a month with her husband, and they've been married for 3 decades. But once a
That's
month,
awesome.
because they had three kids, three girls, now a bunch of grandkids, all of that. But so, and she travels because she has businesses all over the globe, and so she comes home and they make sure they have a weekend honeymoon every month, and
I
it's
love it.
brilliant. You have to stay connected, especially when you're a driven entrepreneur. You're building businesses, you're building other people up, and then you forget about those that are nearest and dearest to your heart. So I think it's great.
Yeah, Graham, I like the moments too. The other point I'll make, just for
Hmm.
the entrepreneurs listening and those that have busy lives, one thing that I think I've found to be very advantageous, and it could be on a singular level just for you, or it could be with your family. I like to build in moments. So if I'm flying to a new city and I'm going to have a hell of a day or a hell of a night or whatever it's going to be, I may go find a really cool restaurant where I can have lunch, and I have a glass of rosé and I have a really nice lunch, and I might just sit there for an hour and a half and you know, have an experience that's just for me to kind of recharge and be like, man, I love Boston and Little Italy. It's just so fun. I'm talking to the neighbors next to me. Like, I just have that moment. And I do it with my kids as well. When we go into a new city and we're having a game, and like we've rushed there, and instead of rushing out, I'm like, okay, let's stop. Let's go to the farm and get some, you know, fresh ice cream at the farm or whatever it may be. We're doing something that's unique and creating moments, because life is busy. So sometimes it's not just about these big things. It's also about those little tiny moments that you can create in the busyness that just fit into life in a way where you always remember that little lunch you had, or that quick little restaurant that you stopped at, or where you met the guy that had the Italian restaurant for 35 years and you know, he told you his whole life story. Those are cool little things to do.
I love that, creating moments. Yeah, in Little Italy, there's plenty of moments there. Our daughter lived there the last 3 years,
Oh,
so
really? In Boston?
yes,
I love that
loved it.
area.
Loved it. So, if people want to get a hold of you, are you looking and wanting to work with them on the financial M&A side, on the coaching? with the life breakthroughs. What is it that Scott is doing and focusing his energy right now?
So a lot of my energy is going into the EQ side of businesses, business leaders, and M&A. I mean, anytime you have big decisions in business, it's nice to have somebody that's been there, that's struggled, that's been through the same challenges, and can help kind of realign you in a way that keeps you moving towards your goals. And so I think that's a great way. Obviously, if someone's trying to if they're interested in selling their financial services business, we do a lot in that space. But really, all of the things that we do are correlated to business in general and can work in any business whatsoever. So if they want to find me, they go to scottdanner.com. My YouTube channel, I have tons of podcasts on there. I do videos about this type of stuff all the time. It's a great place. And then just follow me on social media. I mean, I get to follow cool people. I'll get someone following me. I'm like, man, that guy's awesome. I never knew this guy existed. He's super fun. So I'm out there learning just like you are. And, I think that's what makes this fun. I'm excited about where we go from here. And I'm rooting for all of the businesses and all the people that are trying to build it towards something good to make a bigger impact.
I'm with you. That's my whole intention, is to grow business leaders so that they can make a greater impact. How simple is that? And but like you say, if you're always growing and learning, every time you talk to a new leader and help them, there's something that you may or may not have encountered. So thanks. And I'll put all your contacts, scottdanner.com, in the show notes as well, so people can get a hold of you. And thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and go out and make an impact on the world.
Thanks, Grant, for having me.